Secrets Between the Lines. Chapter 1, The Letter. I never expected a single envelope to change my life. The mail had been late that day as usual, and I had almost ignored it. But there it was, slipping through the slot in my apartment door, as if it had been waiting for me specifically. No return address, just my name, scrawled in a looping, elegant handwriting that felt oddly familiar and entirely foreign at the same time. I hesitated before picking it up. My fingers traced the curves of each letter, noting the careful pressure of the pen, the tiny smudge in the ink that suggested someone had paused mid-stroke. Something about it felt deliberate, intimate, dangerous. I tore open the envelope with a mix of curiosity and dread. Inside, a single sheet of cream-colored paper. Meet me at the corner of 5th and Maple. Midnight. No signature, no explanation, nothing else. My mind raced. Who would know where to find me at that time? Why had they chosen a letter rather than a phone call? My rational brain told me to ignore it, to throw it away and pretend it had never arrived. But my curiosity, that stubborn spark that had driven me into countless mysteries in the past, refused to be quiet. I had to go. I spent the rest of the day in a haze of anticipation. Every sound in the city seemed louder, sharper, as though it were warning me. The distant wail of sirens, the rhythmic clatter of train tracks in the distance, the occasional bark of a dog, all felt like part of a symphony orchestrated just for me. By evening, I had convinced myself that refusing to go would leave me with a gnawing sense of unfinished business. So I dressed in dark clothing, wrapped a scarf around my neck, and headed out. The streets were nearly empty. Fog hung low, curling around the street lights like ghostly fingers. I reached the designated corner 20 minutes early, my heart hammering with a combination of fear and exhilaration. And then I saw him. He was tall, dark-haired, dressed in a long coat that flapped slightly in the cold wind. His hands were tucked into his pockets, his posture casual, yet his eyes scanned the street as if expecting someone. When he finally turned toward me, a smile tugged at the corner of his lips, faint, knowing, and unsettlingly familiar. "You're asking why you're here," he said softly, his voice a low rumble that made my chest tighten. "But I'll only tell you if you promise to listen carefully. Everything you know is about to change." I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. The air felt thick, charged, as if every particle around me were waiting for my response. My instincts screamed to run, but another quieter part of me, the part that had always lived for mysteries, for danger, for stories, leaned forward. I nodded. He smiled again, a hint of something unspoken in his eyes. "Good," he said, "because once we begin, there's no turning back." We walked silently down the fog-draped streets. He moved with purpose, each step deliberate, his eyes never leaving mine. And yet, despite the calm he projected, I could sense the tension coiled beneath, a predator waiting. Finally, we reached an old abandoned building at the edge of the city. Its windows were dark, cracked in places, and ivy crept along the walls like black veins. The door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint smell of mildew. But there was something else, too. A subtle tang of danger, like metal just touched by blood. "You might want to sit," he said, gesturing toward a battered wooden chair. "This isn't a story for the faint of heart." I did as he suggested, my hands gripping the arms of the chair so tightly I feared I'd leave impressions in the wood. He crouched in front of me, pulling a folder from inside his coat. The edges were worn, stained, and filled with papers that seemed to vibrate with urgency. "These," he said, "are letters, notes, and files that no one else has seen. They're connected. Murders, disappearances, secrets hidden in plain sight. And they all point to something far more dangerous than anyone realizes." He handed me a sheet of paper. My eyes scanned the text, and I froze. The handwriting was eerily familiar, almost like the envelope I had received. And the message it conveyed was chilling. Someone had been documenting crimes for years, with a precision and obsession that made my stomach knot. "Why me?" I whispered. He looked at me, and for a moment, the mask of professionalism dropped. Vulnerability flickered in his eyes, raw and human. "Because you read between the lines. Because you see what others miss. And because—" He hesitated, and my heart skipped. "Because I can't do this alone." I wanted to protest, to argue that I was just an editor, not some amateur detective. But the moment stretched on, filled with a silent understanding. I knew I was already in too deep. The world I thought I understood, the city I thought was mundane, had shifted.